Hello, happy Saturday. Do you remember a couple of days ago I posted a video, somebody was asking me about sort of OCD self-punishment stuff? Well, reflect to that video there, which was really her asking about like when she has these thoughts of if she does something wrong and she sort of like feels that she needs to punish herself by not eating the food that she really wants and stuff like that. Stinky's coming to join the conversation. Thanks, Stinky. Cat butt. Okay, so anyway, so she emailed me again, and I want to add on to what we were talking about. So she said, what makes it even worse is that my mind also immediately jumps to the conclusion that the reason that I've been making mistakes is because I've been more lenient with my eating. I think by that she means eating. She's been eating more, not restricting as much. And that by not enforcing my old eating rules, I have opened the floodgates to sloppy work, loss of discipline, carelessness, etc. If you, like me, had an OCD element to your eating disorder, that probably rings some bells. So then she continues, maybe this part is hard to understand, but in general I have this fear that if I respond to my hunger unconditionally and no longer use food as a reward punishment system, well then I will lose all motivation to be a good and productive member of society and will become less careful, disciplined and competent, and also will become a hedonistic, slothful parasite. Yeah. And that is something I've heard from plenty of clients. It was the sort of, not exactly that wording, they don't use exactly the wording hedonistic, slothful parasite, but I have one client who often says that she's just got this sort of fear that she'll forget how to be a productive human being if she allows herself to eat without restriction and rest in the way that she really needs to. I certainly had similar sort of things. Mine was a lot more, Stinky just scratched me. Mine was a lot more to do with the exercise part, that if I allowed myself to rest, that I'd suddenly lose the ability to even get off the couch, which I kind of did for a little while, but that's quite understandable. My body was knackered. Long term, when my body was rehabilitated and started to feel better, guess what? I have the ability to get off the couch, and I have the ability to be a productive human being. And I think it's also what's important is to have a look at that word productive, because I do think that people with restrictive eating disorders in general and those genetic types, and I don't like to say, oh, everybody's the same. Not everybody's the same, who far from it, who has an eating disorder, but in general I'd say like the closest you'll get me to a blanket statement is that people with eating disorders, restrictive eating disorders, tend to be productive people. Now, for me, when I had a restrictive eating disorder, anorexia, my idea of being a productive person was working in this dead-end waitressing job, and I liked it, my eating disorder liked it because I could run around all day and not sit down, and there was an excuse for that. Basically doing like really dead-end jobs that, like, to my head then, that was productive because I was moving, so it was productive. It was also productive because I was earning money, yes. But it was like my idea of what's productive would be like basically I have to be moving the whole time, I have to be doing something the whole time. What I've learned in recovery, now that when my brain started to be able to comprehend, actually often the phrase sort of like do more is less is really true. If I allow my body to rest when it needs to rest, I have more usable mental energy to do things that are actually properly productive. For example, writing blogs, doing YouTube videos, writing books, and of course seeing clients, doing podcasts. Like all of those things are, when I look at it now, I'm a way more productive person than I was when I was actively in my eating disorder. Just my definition of productive has completely changed. I don't run my arse off 24 hours a day. It's a bit of an exaggeration. Probably 20 hours a day. I don't run my arse off the whole time doing like dead end things that because my idea of productive isn't like moving the whole time now. My idea of productive is like, well, how much kind of like bang for my buck could I get? Like how much can I produce with the least effort from me? Which actually, if you think about it, is what productivity is. You are not being productive if you are just running your ass off and producing very little and putting a lot of energy into it. That's not being productive. Being productive is, in the least amount of time possible, with the least amount of energy possible, getting the most out of yourself, which is absolutely how I see it now. I'm lying on the couch right now. I haven't been productive. You could say that I have not been very productive today, but I need the rest. And then like I'll lie on the couch and I'm like, yeah, I feel like making a YouTube video. And so I think like as you recover, what I'm trying to say is as you recover, your idea of what a productive human being is really changes. Now, she also mentions her mind immediately jumps to the conclusion that the reason she's been making mistakes is because she's been more lenient with eating and not enforcing her old eating rules. And that, I think, my dear, is just it's a really straightforward OCD type thing. The brain is just linking up things that actually should not be linked at all. Like, I know, for example, I could walk into my house and trip up. I could trip over a step, like bang my knee, and my brain would immediately go to, that's because I ate too much today. That's really fucked up. Sorry. My brain would do that though. Basically, or you know what else happened a lot? I'd go for a job interview, something like that, and I wouldn't get the job because probably really obvious reasons now. I looked not a very healthy person. Anyway, so I wouldn't get the job, but then my brain would immediately go for, well, I didn't get that job, so, and that is about, I got that bad luck because I, ate too much chocolate yesterday or something like that, whatever it was, or I didn't exercise enough yesterday. And so my brain would immediately always jump to food or lack of, or anything that was sort of not exerting myself as much as possible, not eating as little as possible. My brain would jump to that as the reason that bad things happen to me. Now, I do think that there's a reason for this. I think that when your brain thinks that you're in a famine and you need to move as much as possible and eat as little as possible in order to be successful in migration and getting to the place where you can actually survive, I do think that the brain is motivated to, whenever something goes wrong, say, this is because you need to migrate, damn it, get on with it. And that makes sense, because if we were in this famine type situation, often probably if things went wrong, it would be because you weren't actually focusing enough on migration, getting your ass out of that place and to somewhere where the food was. And so I think that there's a lot of this anorexia response, and even those seemingly crazy OCD-like neural pathways, I do think that there's logic behind that if you're looking at, like, well, why is this brain doing this? And why is this brain trying, whenever possible, to motivate someone to move more and eat less? And why is this brain grasping at things that seem completely unrelated and saying this is because you didn't move enough and this is because you ate too much? Anyway, so, well, what do we do in this circumstance? Well, it's back to the rewiring as usual. You ignore it, and if your brain says you tripped over that step, or you did this mistake at work, or you didn't get this thing, or you didn't pass your driving test because you were not working out enough and you ate too much, then you say, thank you very much, brain. I know that you would be wonderful asset to me if we were actually in a famine, but we're not, so thank you very much. I'm just going to ignore that thought. I'm going to eat more food and rest more. And that's how you're going to operate pretty much with a lot of these neural pathways in recovery. And just understand that as your brain moves out of this scarcity mindset, it's going to stop making those fucked up correlations between things. It's going to stop sort of assuming that everything that goes wrong in your life is because you ate more or you did less. And that will gradually happen. That won't happen overnight, because those neural pathways take time to change. But you can speed that up a little bit by teaching your brain that actually those things are not true. And the way that you teach your brain that those things are not true is via your actions, by doing the opposite of what those neural pathways want you to do. So in the circumstance that you make a mistake at work and your brain says, this is because you ate more chocolate yesterday, you say, thank you very much, brain, but that's not true. I'm going to prove to you that I know that's not true by eating more chocolate right now.
Stinky is having a very productive day today, aren't you, darling? He is resting very productively, and all of this rest means that when he decides to, probably in about 20 hours time, when he decides to actually move, he's going to be able to move like a cool, agile cat, aren't you, Stinky? And he's going to be able to play with Dave with lots of really great energy, because he's been being productive right now. and resting.